Have you ever wondered why we react the way we do? Why we feel anger, fear, jealousy, often without knowing why? Jiddu Krishnamurti, one of the most original spiritual teachers of the 20th century, believed that much of our suffering comes from something we rarely question: psychological conditioning. In this video, we'll explore what Krishnamurti meant by that, and more importantly, how to be free from it. From the moment we're born, we're conditioned. By our family, by religion, by education, culture, nationality, even by personal experiences. This conditioning forms the structure of our thinking, how we interpret the world, how we react, and how we see ourselves. Krishnamurti says, "We are the result of time, of 1,000 experiences, influences, and traditions. Our thoughts are not truly our thoughts. They are repetitions of the past." This conditioning shapes our beliefs, our fears, our sense of self, and it's precisely this inherited, unconscious programming that Krishnamurti calls psychological conditioning. You might ask, so what? Isn't it normal? Yes, but Krishnamurti points out that this conditioning leads to conflict in relationships, nationalism and war, fear, jealousy, comparison, division between me and you. In other words, all human conflict, both inner and outer, arises from this limited, conditioned mind. Krishnamurti says, as long as the mind is in conflict, there is no freedom. And the most dangerous part? We are not even aware of this conditioning. We think it's just who we are. Krishnamurti's key insight is this: thought is always old. Every thought is based on memory, on past experiences. It can never be new. But we try to solve problems, especially emotional ones, using thought. Thought, trying to fix thought, is like a dog chasing its tail. For example, you feel insecure. You think about why. You try to fix it by becoming better, smarter, richer. But the very self doing the fixing is part of the conditioning. You're rearranging furniture inside the same prison. Krishnamurti says, the observer is the observed, meaning the part of you judging your fear is not separate from the fear, it is fear. So how do we break free? Not by effort, not by practice or belief, but through choiceless awareness. Krishnamurti urges us to simply observe our thoughts and emotions, without judging, without trying to change anything. Just watch, like you would watch clouds drifting by. He says, in the very observation of the fact, there is freedom from the fact. When you see anger and truly observe it, without naming it, without resisting, it ends not by force, but by insight. This is not meditation in the usual sense, it is awareness in everyday life, while walking, while talking, while alone or with others. Freedom doesn't come at the end, it comes now in the act of seeing. To be free of conditioning is not to become something else, it's to be nothing. Not in a negative way, but in the sense of being empty of fear, belief, image, ego. And only from that emptiness can love, compassion, and true intelligence flow. Krishnamurti's message isn't easy, but it's powerful because it puts responsibility and the possibility of freedom into your own hands. Freedom is not in the future, not in books or gurus, but in your own clear seeing right now. Jiddu Krishnamurti taught that true freedom comes through one subtle yet powerful act: observation without judgment and without the observer. It sounds strange, even impossible, but this insight is at the heart of Krishnamurti's teaching, and it might just change the way you see your mind and your life. When most of us observe our thoughts or emotions, we usually analyze or label them. I'm angry. That's a bad thought. I shouldn't feel this way. This is not real observation. Real observation, Krishnamurti says, is silent, attentive, without any movement of thought. You're not trying to change what you see. You're not judging it. You're just watching, like looking at a sunset or listening to a bird. But there's a hidden problem. When you say, I'm watching my thoughts, who is the I? Krishnamurti points out that this observer is not separate from the thing being observed. He says, the observer is the observed. Let's break that down. The observer, the one watching, is made up of past experiences, memories, conditioning. And what it observes, say fear, is also part of that past. So when you say, I am afraid, you're separating the fear from yourself, as if there's a controller behind the emotion. But in reality, that controller is the emotion. This separation is the root of inner conflict. When the observer judges or tries to control what it sees, there's resistance. That resistance creates struggle. I should not be angry. I must get rid of fear. I must become peaceful. But who is this I trying to become something? It's still part of the same thought system, the same conditioned mind. Krishnamurti says, conflict exists only when there is division. When you see that the observer is the observed, that division collapses. There's no longer an inner battle, only pure seeing. So what is observation without the observer? It is attention without effort. It is choiceless awareness. You don't say, this is good, that is bad. This feeling must go. I should be calm. You simply observe. For example, you feel anger. You don't name it. You don't justify or suppress it. You just watch with total stillness. And something remarkable happens. That awareness itself dissolves the emotion, not through force, but through insight. Krishnamurti says, to observe without evaluation is the highest form of intelligence. This is not a mystical experience reserved for monks. You can observe in the midst of ordinary life, while walking, while talking, when you're irritated, bored, or anxious. The key is watchfulness without interference. No control, no judgment, just observation. Even watching thought itself, as it moves, like a leaf floating on water. And the more you do it, the more the mind begins to quiet down. Not because you forced it to, but because you're no longer feeding the noise. This is real meditation, not repetition, not discipline, but silent observation of what is. To observe without judgment and without the observer is to be free from conflict. It is to see clearly, and in that clarity, the mind is truly quiet. Krishnamurti didn't offer a system or method. He only pointed to this: just observe. Jiddu Krishnamurti invited humanity not to follow him, but to question everything, even him. His most radical teachings is the importance of questioning all forms of authority. What do we mean by authority? There is external authority, governments, religious leaders, teachers, experts. And there is internal authority, tradition, memory, the voice of past experience. Krishnamurti pointed out that most of us live second-hand lives. We think what we are told to think. We act according to what is accepted, and we obey not out of understanding, but out of fear. But can there be true freedom if we never question? To follow another is to deny your own understanding. J. Krishnamurti. Blind obedience is often mistaken for discipline. But Krishnamurti warned, where there is blind obedience, there is conformity, not intelligence. He saw how religious systems, political ideologies, even education all condition the mind to obey without inquiry. When you follow somebody, you are destroying yourself, your capacity for intelligence and truth. Krishnamurti. Questioning does not mean rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It means to look, to observe, to understand deeply, without fear. He urged us to be a light to ourselves, not to lean on another's conclusions. Beyond external systems, Krishnamurti pointed to something more subtle, the psychological authority of the past. Your experiences, your identity, your accumulated knowledge all form an inner authority that tells you, this is right, that is wrong, this is who you are. But is that the truth? Or is it just memory speaking? Krishnamurti said, truth is a living thing, not a fixed belief. To find it, we must go beyond the authority of our conditioning, even beyond the authority of our own thoughts. Truth is a pathless land, Krishnamurti. When we drop all authority, what is left? A mind that is not trapped by what it should be. A mind that is free to observe, not from the lens of the past, but in the now. This is not chaos, it is intelligence. True intelligence, Krishnamurti said, is born out of freedom, not from knowledge, not from imitation, but from silent observation. To question authority is not to become cynical, but to become aware. So what can you do? Start with yourself. Can you observe your own reactions without judgment? Can you see how your mind obeys, conforms, imitates? Ask yourself, quietly, is this thought mine or something I've been told? Look at religious ideas, at political beliefs, at social rules, and look inward at how fear and desire shape your opinions. You don't need to destroy these things, just see them clearly. And in that clarity comes freedom. Krishnamurti never gave answers, he only offered a mirror so that we might see ourselves. And in seeing, change is possible, not through effort, not through authority, but through awareness. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Krishnamurti. Question everything, not with anger, but with silence, with attention, and with love.